All right. It looks like everyone can see me. There we go. Welcome, everybody. Happy Tuesday night. It is November 18th. We're a week away from Thanksgiving. I know everybody's excited to get everything going for their show. And Robert said to me earlier today, he's like, probably would help if we did some troubleshooting and stuff like that within the group, because people might have some questions about specifically different things in their show that aren't working and why they're not working. And so what I want to do today is, and I really sat down and I walked through mentally everything that whenever I think about troubleshooting a prop that gets me to the final result, which is making sure that everything works. So we've talked at length about this in different classes, but we've never dedicated a class to this. So before we begin, let me get my screen shared here. I just want to make a quick announcement that we're running a PPD Club member special right now. If you are in the PPD Sequence Club, use PPD code Club. The code is PPD Club SS, and you can get the Ocum Emmanuel sequence off the PPD website. This is 50% off as of right now. There's 20 copies floating around out there with your name on it. And if you'd like, head on over to pixelprodisplays.com. Look for King and Country, Ocum Emmanuel. This sequence is a beautiful sequence. Very, very new to the store. And use PPD Club SS as the coupon code, and that'll get you in. Also, if you haven't, if you want to do the xLights around the world, we are working with Easy RGB to give away both the sequences of the month. Or of the xLights around the world, rather, to anybody. So you don't have to be a club member. If you want to use the PPD versions of these songs for free, you can go to Easy RGB, upload your layout, create an account, upload your layout and your network file. It will do an amazing mapping job compared to anything you've ever seen. And you don't have to do any work. You don't have to set up any groups. You don't have to map anything. You just upload it, and it will give you back an FSEQ file. You take the MP3 and download the MP3, download your sequence file, your FSEQ, put it in FPP, put it in Xschedule, and light it up and add it to your show. Simple as that, and it's free. So that is the announcements for today. What I want to do is I want to get started with troubleshooting pixels, and it's really hard to do this just by myself and only thinking about the things that I've experienced in my life. So the first thing I'm going to do is this little presentation. Really, I didn't want to spend all night doing this, but I do want to I got that thing covering here. There we go. Display settings, show them on all, duplicate it. There we go. And let's get that out of the way. Okay. Uh-oh. Well, that didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out. I guess I can't do it the way I wanted to do it. I was so ready. I thought, oh man, I figured out this PowerPoint thing where I'm screen sharing. Maybe I need to share the other screen. That's what I need to do. Give me a second here, guys. Share. We'll go to number 6. And we'll put it over here. And There we go. YouTube can see it. You guys can see it. There we go. Okay, let's try this again. Start presenting. There we go. Swap. There we go. That should do it. Now I should be in good shape. And I can see your questions. They'll be right in front of me. So this works. All right, everybody can see we're ready to go. Here we are. Again, tonight's Troubleshooting Pixel Strands 101. I don't know everything about pixels. I wish I did. I'm not an electrical engineer, but I'm a user for the past 15 years of xLights and RGB and LOR and AC lights and stuff like that. And things change, but at the same token, there's a lot of basics that we can go through. And so having a basic knowledge of xLights and pixels is going to be assumed here. I am assuming that you have a basic knowledge of this. I've learned that it's important to learn from other people's mistakes as well. So what I want you to consider while we're going through this class, through the lessons, is keep in mind that you may not hear me say something, and if you do have something you want to add, please add it by putting it in chat, because again, I have it in front of me, and we may even, if you want to go on the record, and we'll unmute you and you can bring it up. I'll be happy to do that as well as we go. So you can always put your hand up if you want to add something in or bring up the question. We'll have plenty of time at the end for that. And we're going to go through what I call a basic progression, and the basic progression is working logically through the process of the actual troubleshooting steps. So I have a few props. I didn't make a lot of decorations in the PowerPoint, so forgive me. We'll go ahead and get started. So please participate, share and chat. Raise your hand to participate. I will definitely look forward to people sharing their experiences. Again, your experiences are going to vary because of the different things that have happened to you, but I'm going to go through some of the basics. So some things to keep in mind ahead of time is testing controllers before you deploy them. It is very important that you look at your controllers. You go plug them in. Physically look at your controllers. Are they in good shape? Are they in good repair? Do all the connectors look good? Can you look inside your controllers connections for your network cables and make sure that your Ethernet connection is good? Are the glands tight? Are they flopping around? Did any of them break? I had to replace an entire set of these. I know this is basics. But again, this is part of keeping in mind beforehand. And then making sure that everything between the outside of the box goes inside the box is working and in good shape. I put in here verify voltage, and I also put in parentheses during controller assembly, because generally once you have this in place, you're most likely not going to be able to get in there and do the power conversion. Or make sure that you are running 12 volt when you're running 12 volt pixels, or 5 volt when you're running 5 volt pixels. So keep that in mind. Another thing too that we're going to assume is that your settings in xLights are going to be correct, meaning you're going to use WS2811 pixels. That's standard or general. General. I don't want to say standard, but it's become the mainstay in the hobby. And that's by default set up in xLights. So if you begin to have issues, one of the things that you do need to check is if you're using different kinds of pixels. Like let's say the order of the data comes out as RGB, but your pixels are actually BGR. That's a different color order, and you have to set the strand manually for just that string, because that string works differently than the rest. So keep that in mind. Protocols are important. The output settings are important. Did you set a brightness to be uploaded with the controller, if that's a function or if that's available? All of that's, we're keeping that in mind beforehand. So there are certainly things that we can come up with that can cause issues. This is a class on its own, I guess you could say. But let's go basically to the controller side, and I want to talk about just the controllers. So I have here, this is a SAN device E682. Most people are going to say these are antiquated. They only hold 12 universes. They really don't do too much for the modern hobbyist because they want to put 2,000 pixels on an output nowadays. And the thing is that the controller just like this is the same thing as that. The only thing is you can just run more pixels on those. And this is usually what most people just want to do, is they just want to hook up, almost, this can do 100 and some pixels. It's 12 universes, I think, like 160 pixels per output, 170, 100, whatever. And but in any event, the first thing that you want to do whenever you're starting to realize that you're having an issue with the string of pixels, especially if it's already out in the show, is that you check the fuse. Newer controllers are nicer in the fact that they have little lights on board, and maybe one of those little lights doesn't light up for you. And if that's the case, that little light means that possibly your fuse is probably blown. And so these are a little hard to get out. They're not meant to be easy to get out, but you can always pull. See, I dropped it. You can always pull the fuse out. And I don't know if you can see it. It's a good fuse. That's a good fuse. But you never know. You never know exactly if that's going to be the issue or not. So with that being said, fuses, go on Amazon or wherever you get go to the hardware store, go down to the auto parts store, get the mini blade fuses, get the regular fuses, whatever your controller uses. Have a bag of these on hand and put them in your little toolbox that you carry around the show whenever you're cleaning up or whenever you're touching things up or fixing things up. It's a great little thing to carry around with you. But that's generally the first thing. If a string is not working, that's generally the first place where I go, is the fuse. The second place is on the controller side. Anytime I don't have a string of pixels not working or working weird, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the controller and I'm going to check a couple of things with that controller. And the first thing that I'm going to check is I'm going to pull the Euro pin out and then I'm going to reseat it. Meaning, I'm going to seat it right back into itself. And I'm going to push. I'm going to make sure it clicks solidly into place. I'm going to look directly onto it and I'm going to make sure that it lines up. I'm going to make sure that I don't offset it, because if you offset it like this, where it's kind of sticking out, see where it's kind of sticking out there, it has that little extra stick out there, then the pins aren't lined up. So if you plugged it in, or it's only half plugged in, maybe it's seated kind of like that, where it's not nice and level with the other ones. Make sure that's number one thing to check. Number two thing to check, and I know this might sound silly, but if you don't have like 1,000 of these laying around by now, these little mini screwdrivers, this is probably the second most important thing in your toolbox, is to go around and check those connections and tighten them down and crank them down, just to make sure that that connection inside the pigtail here, just making sure that connection is nice and tight, because you have your screwdriver there. So another thing too that can cause issues is the pigtail itself. So the pigtail becomes something we heavily rely on, and one of the things that we perhaps forget is just how much activity these pigtails receive. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you have a show that's been around, like mine has been around for 12, 13, 14, 17 years, 18 years I've been doing a show. This is year number 19 for me. And don't think for one second that these will last forever. These can fail just like any other component. And if you want to talk about getting frustrated over finding the biggest issue, if you started the controller and you work your way down, just like I talked about here in the presentation, this could be the one thing that is causing you to have experiences with issues in your controller. Or in your output to pixels. Specifically, it's this part right here. This section right here that is going to be the main connection between your actual connector, the female or the male, whatever it happens to be, and this area here. Because sometimes when they're produced, this can be a failure point. This is a connection. Anytime you have a physical connection, that's an area for failure, possible failure, a failure point, as we come to call it. And whenever it comes to a failure point, that's this side over here. That's what I just got done saying. Hey, go crank these down, right? Use the screwdriver, crank these down. This is a failure point. So I'm just trying to get you to button up your failure points so that you don't have to worry. Now, if you take a male and a female pigtail, plug them in together and wiggle them together and the string starts to work, you got a bad connection at the pigtail. So either the male's bad or the female is bad. Those are the two things that are usually the biggest challenges whenever it comes to testing out the outputs. And then the other thing I want to mention is testing another workaround or using a workaround to test the other outputs. So if you have a string of pixels, so I have, and these are some seeds that I just haven't gotten back to using yet here. Here we go. And I'm not going to plug these in. These are actually 5 volt. They're not 12 volt. But I have a female connector on the end here. I got the male connector on the end. If you're testing your pixels and you plug them into one output, now I don't have this plugged in at all. Yes, verified. I don't want to burn anything out. If you want to check really quick, and this isn't working, and obviously it's not going to because it's not powered on, the first thing that you want to do is you want to say, inside the box, here's my controller, take your Euro pin, disconnect it from a known working, or go to the working side and check and move it from one down here to another one. And doing that is going to give you, as long as there's data coming out of this one, it will give you data going to this one, and you'll be able to check without having to unplug at the connection, at the actual connection. You can plug it in from here, moving it down to here, and you can give it a test to see if that's what the issue is through the pigtail. So it's very easy to swap these out and check. That's the easiest way to check and see if pigtails are working, if a connection is bad between the board and the outside of the controller box. And I highly recommend that's probably the first place that you go. Does it plug in and work in another output? Let's keep rolling along here. Controller side troubleshooting continued. Checking the extension cords. So extension cords, which, as I ordered last week, extension cords also go bad over the years. 20 feet is a normal extension cord. And generally, you should be able to get 20 feet outside of your controller. So if I plug in a pixel string with an extension cord, I should be able to go 20 feet. And if you measure the cords and they're 20 feet long, you should have no problem. But if you happen to have different pixel controllers, maybe some of the pixel controllers are older, maybe they don't have the updated network packs that are on here, the network resistor packs. Maybe the newer control, maybe your controller is optimized for longer data runs and it can run 40 feet. Just keep in mind that some pixel strings need a booster. And so, and these happen to be ones that I ordered from EasyRGB. They have a data booster in the middle. And basically this is a 50-foot or 25-foot extension and a 25-foot extension. And they added to it an F-amp and they made it a 50-footer. So extensions go bad and you have to be prepared for that. Now, just like we talked about for the pigtails, now I'm probably going to wear this one out from showing you, but the male and female pigtails on the extension, those can also go bad too. So having spare pigtails, having spare extension cords means that you have a backup that you can grab immediately and go in and throw into the output and connect up. And again, if one extension is working and you plug it into another output that's on another extension that you're close to out in the yard, you can try that out as well. That's that's absolutely going to give you hopefully some relief. So cables also, another thing, cables also can get nicked or frayed. hands up for all of you folks that are watching. How many of you have had to deal with the different animals in your show that visit you after the lights go out, such as the little rabbits or the squirrels, or I don't know what else is going to climb into your boxes and mess around. But I know I've had rabbits visit me. I've had untold number of network cables that I've had to replace. I do like these flat wire extension cords, but they're easier for any of those rodents to come in and nick on or bite on and ruin. And even the thicker wires, even the thick round ones that are just like the pigtails here, the really thick ones, they eat through these things too, which is insane. Like, you wouldn't think they would, but they do. So when you're going to spend this much, but instead you you can get these for cheaper and they're eating through both of them, which one are you going to get? So I saw Sean, hands up there to Sean, and I think Chris also had his hand up there too. That they've been through that. Physical pixel strings. Now, when we come to a physical set of pixels, and whenever you are looking at the pixels, now of course these are seeds. Again, they're just like your extension cords. How about I hold it the right way? Again, these are just like regular extension cords. That's all this is a string of pixels. Is nothing but an extension cord with pixels soldered in the middle and joining them. And your male and female pigtails on these can go bad as well. They could have poor solder joints at the connector. If you're like me and you made your own pigtail extensions, it could be your soldering that is going bad after years of flopping around on the mega tree. I've had that happen before, where I had poor solder joints from the wind blowing and the breeze. Sometimes your strings just need replaced. That's just the way it is. And so you have bad connectors, you have poor solder joints, you could again have nicked wires or little critters that came and visited you and left you frustrating presents. So we'll just keep rolling right along. One of my favorite tools is a multimeter. I have I had two of these. I gave one of these to Rob just because people were saying he didn't have a good one, so I gave him one of mine. I had two of these, and anyway, what's nice about a multimeter is it gives you the chance to look at other YouTube videos to figure out how to use the thing. And quite honestly, when I need to use my multimeter, I can look it up really quick on what do I want to do. I want to test continuity. It's not something I have to do a whole lot because I test my stuff before, and usually the tests that I just went through earlier with checking your controllers, look at the connection to the controller, look at the pigtail, usually I'll find the issue before I have to pull this out. So this is kind of, I don't want to say it's a last resort, but it's good to have one of these. Even the cheap Harbor Freight $5 one is a good little multimeter just for our hobby. You don't have to spend a lot of money. I didn't spend a lot of money on these. In fact, I think the one I gave Robert is the one that was given to me. And what's nice is that you can verify voltage at the end of a pixel strand. You can confirm that you have 5 volt or 12 volt coming out of your controller. You can check for power drop at midstring rather. And it's very easy to do so. Now, I'm not going to sit here and demo this. This is all something that you can look up on your own because there's a lot of things that you can get into whenever it comes to the multimeter. But the biggest thing is continuity check. Checking for continuity is huge. It helps you identify where broken wires are instead of pigtails. So back to the pigtail. You want to test a pigtail. You might want to test your pigtail before you install them into a controller. After a few years, you might want to go back and check the pigtails to see. You might want to check the pigtails to see how they're working after all the years that you've had them out in the show. I have pigtails that I've been using quite literally for 13 years or 12 years, and they, at some point they're going to wear out, or maybe they'll keep going. Who knows? But it's a way to test for them is by using your multimeter. So I'm gonna jump over here. Let me go back to let me go to the next slide here. Perfect. What are your experiences? What recommendations do you have? I'm gonna run and look in the comment section, which is like going crazy in two different places. So forgive me while I get kind of sorted so I can see all of the chat, which is going nuts here. I see. Let's see. I see that Keith is on YouTube. He's like he has strands to stay on, and he's changed the Ethernet cable. Still the same. If strands are staying on, that's generally because the controller is outputting data to them, or it's telling them to be on, and that sounds more like a bad port. Without getting into too much detail. And Steven says, not related to this video, but your last sequences are fantastic. Thank you. I wasn't expecting that. I'm going to jump into the chat here and kind of scroll down, looking here. Lori, did you find that? Were you able to pull up the PowerPoint, Lori? Okay, yeah, she got it. Okay, Chris, don't screw the connector onto the insulation either. Chris brought up a fantastic point. So whenever you are working on your pigtail connectors, and this isn't the one I was working with earlier, make sure, and I'll hold this up as close as I can to the camera. The hard part is watching the YouTube one. Make sure that the jacket of the wire isn't shoved up inside the Euro pin, because if it is, it's not going to have a connection, the wire to metal connection on that green pin, and you will not get anything coming through this controller into that pigtail if that jacketed wire is cranked down on it. So make sure you wire strip off enough of that jacket so that it leaves space. Great suggestion, Chris. Let's see. Rudy, people with big teeth. I'm assuming that's whenever we were talking about animals eating the wires. Bill suggests a battery-powered pixel tester for the win. That's actually very, very good. A very, very good idea in general is to have some sort of pixel tester, and battery powered is even better because you really don't need it. You can make a battery tester out of an Amazon $5, $10 battery charger or battery bank charger for your cell phone. You just need to get a spare set of wires that connect into even a receiver. Like I don't even know if I have a receiver here right now, but if I do. If you have a receiver here, so this is an SRX2 version 4. This works on the V3s, V4s, V5s, the Falcons. If you connect power to this, a 12-volt power source or 5-volt power, whatever you're using, to one of these, you can, with a battery, go around and check using the test button on your receiver or your smart receiver or something. That's a fantastic idea. Bill, thanks for bringing that up. And then you can walk around and you can say, hey, is this working with power whenever it's not connected to the pixel string? And then you can identify, well, it's somewhere between that controller and the pigtail that I connected the pixel to. That's where the problem's going to be. We'll keep scrolling here. How low is too low for voltage at the end of a string? So a general consensus, I don't know, I can't give you a number, but what I would say is that it's safe to assume, and I'm only talking about standard pixels because Lord knows that everybody has something different to say about the seeds, and I really haven't used the seeds to know this enough, but I would highly recommend no more than 200 pixels without doing power injection at the end of that. And if you do 300 pixels on an output, you're probably going to drop that down to maybe 20% brightness, but that shouldn't require you to do any power injection. So that's kind of an easy way to think about it. I really don't have a number for you as far as voltage at the end of the string, but you can test to see what your voltage is. And if you are running 12 volt and there's only at the end of the string of whatever is only like 7 or 8 volt, maybe you need to do power injection or put the next put the continuation of that prop on another output. Daniel says, make sure to connect the correct polarity, positive to negative. It is so easy. It is so easy to hook this up to power and then forget which one of these is positive and which one of these is the ground. It's so easy to do that. So be very careful. Be mindful of your wire colors. Be mindful of your own wiring. Generally, when we do DC voltage, red wire is your hot wire, black is your ground. When we're doing standard house wiring, white is your ground or neutral, and black is your hot. So be very aware whenever you are connecting, and make sure, and 5 volt versus 12 volt. If you have a controller, and I just did this to Robert the other week, I gave him an F8 controller, or K8, Culp8, and I rebuilt it for him so he could use his 12 volt on it, and I left the hat in 5 volt mode, and we blew the beagle bone that was connected to it. So that was on me because I wasn't thinking. So that really doesn't happen very often. I probably have only burned up two strings of pixels that were like that. So verify before you plug in positive and negative, and verify 5 volt or 12 volt before you proceed. I have Paul said he says I have one candy cane 150 pixels. When using Falcon web interface to test everything, it lights up, but the one prop only 8 pixels light up. But testing through FPP and running the sequence, it works just fine. So let's see. I have one candy cane, 150 pixels when using the Falcon web interface to test everything. Lights up, but that one prop only 8 pixels light up. So I'm not sure which Falcon you're using, but I will say this. If it's a Falcon V3, the test mode on the Falcon has never been 100% perfectly reliable. There are bugs with it. I generally don't use the controller test page interface to ever test my pixels. I always will use xLights because xLights is going to send the same data out that xSchedule or that FPP is going to send out. So that's my suggestion. Don't use the interface on a Falcon to test. I just don't. I learned a long time ago. You can't trust it. Keith says troubleshooting outside the issues. Example, if you're having a problem with lights on a receiver and everything you've checked doesn't work, check the port on the actual differential controller. Uh-oh. Well, it looks like I'm buffering. There we go. Well, looks like we had an issue.
I think Zoom went down for a second.
Yeah.
I think Zoom was done for everybody.
Yeah, it did, but it's back up
Look
now.
at that. First AWS, then Cloudflare, then Azure, now Zoom.
Man, they're attacking everything.
Well,
They are attacking
And I
everything.
sent you a message too, Rob.
I already fixed it.
Yay! You're the Gremlin Buster.
So
Order
everybody,
away, everybody.
I get shit done.
that really stinks because there were still some good questions in Zoom.
Oh boy.
There were some really good questions in Zoom.
All the questions
Was
are still
AI
there.
on?
They are? Oh, they are. They are still there.
All right. We're just not live, so keep rolling.
All right. So
Stop.
we're still live on YouTube. So YouTube, forgive us for getting off track there. I lost connection to everything. Now we're back. So Facebook. I guess we lost connection with Facebook.
Correct.
Okay. All right. All right, so we're going to just roll on to the next section with pixel strings troubleshooting, and you're gonna hear me sound like a broken record a little bit, but crap happens, man. Crap happens. Recognize what some of the things that we don't often think about are the environment and other things that we are not considering because we're pushing the limits of what we can or cannot do or we think we can do. And one of the things that's important to recognize is whenever it rains, wet conditions, identifying bad pixels in a string, diagnosing weak data signals, and checking for bad connectors on or internal breaks, which we've kind of already mentioned. That's going to sound a little bit like a broken record. But wet conditions or wet connection indicators, and I put a sad face up there for rain because it's true. One of the most frustrating times of the year is when we have a ton of rain in our show. I mean, and you guys can do this too in chat if you want to, or in Zoom if you want to put your hands up. How many of you have experienced horrible rain that knocked out half of your show? How many people have put a notice out on their Facebook lighting page saying, "I'm sorry, our show's not running tonight. We've had 2 days straight of rain." I know that this is just one of the things that we have to deal with. I love it when it snows because the snow and the lights look amazing together. But the downside is that whenever you get a bunch of rain and you have to take what Mother Nature gives you, those can really affect you. So you got to generally whenever you have rain, one of the things that you'll notice is I call them jiggly pixels. Literally, they blink so randomly and so quickly. And they're all different colors of the rainbow. And the moment that you disconnect them and you walk over to them and you blow into the pigtail set and you go, kind of like blowing out an old Nintendo cartridge before you play the game again, put it back in and try again, that usually cleans them out. But whenever you have 30 or 40 or 50 props that are working haphazardly or 40 or 50 outputs, it's almost impossible to go and do that. If you only have a few things, then it might not be so bad. But usually, wet conditions will be a contention in your show that you just will be annoyed with. It doesn't. It's not that it hurts the pixels or it doesn't hurt the pixels. But the best thing to do is to clean out the connections. They say that the pigtail with this cute little what do you call it? That rubber O-ring there. That thing is supposed to stop the water from coming in. It doesn't. It does the best that it can. And how many of us are guilty of push it together and spin one time, 2 times, and then that's enough to lock it in place, and I don't care because you're in such a hurry to get the show up. How many of us don't tighten these down and crank them down? And then again, we don't crank them down because in January, whenever it's freezing cold outside, you can't uncrank them. So it's a double-edged sword, right? But yeah, so the moisture inside the connector can be an issue. The biggest proponent to saving your show or making it so that your show has less and less failures due to rain is to use dielectric grease. We have 2 types. Robert introduced me to the spray type. CRC, I don't have a link for it, but it's about $20 a can now. It used to only be 5. You gotta love inflation. But the can lasts me forever. I used one for 5 or 6 years. I just bought another one. And I spray down all of the connectors as I'm plugging them in. So literally, whenever I go put my props out, I literally take the can of spray and I spray down all the connectors. I spray them before, and then I spray both sides, the male and the female, on the controllers as well as the props, and I make sure that they're good and coated, and I put them together. You can use the jelly type of dielectric grease. But the downside to that is you need to be very careful with where you set your pigtails down, because it'll leave that little greasy trail wherever you set them down. Yeah, the other stuff may not last from year to year to year, but at least you can spray it on, and it's very easy to work with. So, and the other nice thing about dielectric grease is if your pigtails don't go together nice and easy, that you have to force them together, the grease really helps by sliding them in a little bit better. It gives you, a little bit of, relieves that friction that it gets. Bad pixel indicators. So let's talk about failures on where a pixel is failed. When you look at a prop and you see maybe 10 pixels are doing the right thing. They're doing what you told them to do, which is bounce up and down and everything beside it. It's easy to pick them out whenever you're on a mega tree because you can see one string going up and one string coming down, and you have that the whole way around your tree. It might be a little harder to recognize it whenever you have a bad pixel on, let's say, a snowflake or a PPD wreath or something like that. And the reason is because maybe some things light up, and maybe the way that the pixels were pushed into the prop, if the prop doesn't light up, it may look like, oh, it's supposed to look like that. The center of my PPD wreath was out, or one of the middle strings, a whole 50 count, the end of a 50 count was bad. And it was the ring, literally one of the circle rings. And so you really couldn't tell. It was just off. So from the road, it just looked like, oh, those are blank spots in the prop, not broken pixels that don't work. Now, of course, I knew better. If we go to each of our shows, all of us can pick out where everybody else's screw ups are at, but that's not the case with the regular people out there. So many times, many people won't notice some of the things that we think are very glaringly obvious. So if there's no response after a specific node, that's the most common sign of a pixel failure. And what should you do? Well, first, to repair it, it's easiest to repair a bad pixel by removing 2 pixels. Many times it's only 1 pixel. Maybe it's only that 1 pixel on that entire string that is bad, and you should cut that one out and move on. But oftentimes, this pixel may be working just fine, and this pixel might be the bad one because this one's sending out the data, but this one's not listening to it. So it's always best to cut the last working pixel and the first non-working pixel out. Whenever it comes to repairing a string, the best way to repair a pixel string is to solder your replacements in. Now, typically, we in the hobby haven't done. We don't generally do live on my ladder, hanging off the side of the house, soldering for pigtails and pixels and stuff like that. So generally we use things like UY2 connectors, jelly bean connectors, the clickets, things like that get you by. Stripping the wire, twisting it, and putting electrical tape on it. I mean, that's back to the basics. Things that will get you by, and that's all they should be meant for. But it's always best to cut out 2 pixels and replace with 2 known working pixels, because if you do, you're more than likely not going to have to snip off another one, another pixel, and do an additional repair to have 2 pixels that were spliced together when they could have just been together to begin with. So I know it's hard to part with pixels. Back in the day, people didn't like cutting pixels. and people still don't like cutting pixels today. But at the same token, having 2 pixels off of you need to account for things whenever they go sideways. So a 2 pixel repair is highly recommended, and that's the best way we can say it. One of the things that may cause issue is a weak data signal. Generally, this is because the length to the first pixel is further down the line than what generally most people are expecting, and so one of the things that you might do is, and I showed this earlier, you might need to invest in a couple of these. They call them FAMPs or pixel extenders or data extenders. I like the idea that I got these from ZRGB. That they have it built into a 50-foot extension cord. I love that. I freaking love it, because I have 2 strings that go over top of my icicles that go run down the length of the house, and I have to put FAMPs on them. They're 50 feet away from the controller or 45 feet away from the controller, but they work and they do a good job. So I did it the old-fashioned way with the pigtail and the FAMP, but this one, my new ones for the back, for the garage in the back, those will be using those for those, because I'm going to have to go through that over there as well. But if you have pixels flickering, or they're the wrong color, or they seem to be working sometimes, or they look rainbowy and they're getting some data and sometimes they do the right thing, but not reliable, throwing an FAMP or a pixel booster or an FAMP onto the string somewhere in, and I recommend doing it not on the end of the pigtail coming out of the controller. Some people would say, oh, do it right off with the pigtail and do it out of the controller. You can do that. You can try that, and that might work. I recommend, if you have a long extension cord, you have a 25-footer or a 10-footer, put the 10-footer out first, and then put the FAMP, and then run your next extension cord beyond that, just to see. And that should get you out of the weeds. The FAMPs. We always call them the magic bullet. They're like the one thing that can really help you fix things, and move on pretty quick. Receiver board issues. So this is probably one of the most frustrating things that you could ever go through if you use a lot of. Hands up to everybody who is an F48 user or has the Culp K40. If you like using differential controllers, and what a differential controller is nothing more than, this is a Falcon F16 V5. A differential controller is nothing more than these 4 outputs right here. That's a differential output, those 4 of them. The F48s or those differential controllers have 12 of these, or 16 or 20 or 40 of these, and they're super. What they're nice for is easy additions. Oh, I'm going to add this year. Well, I'm only going to have to buy a receiver and pop it against the wall. So Tom's got his hand up there. Chris has his hand up also. Just in general, those kind of controllers are great, because you give yourself a lot of little. I think Zoom left us again. There we go. I guess we're back again. Let me get back over here. There we go. All right. Uh-oh, where's the chat? I lost all the chat. Yeah, this is a crazy night. At least it's not storming out, right? So yeah, the receiver boards are fantastic whenever it comes to easy additions to your show, but they add such a level. How many of you can vouch for the fact that you've gotten frustrated with your receiver boards and your receivers and your F48 differential controllers? Hands up for that. I used an F48 up on my roof because I thought it was easier to add things, move things around, and quite frankly, it was another annoying thing. it was absolutely frustrating for me to have a differential receiver on a roof. I didn't have a yard big enough to put it, and I was the furthest I was going was the furthest that I was going was from here to 10 feet away to the front yard, or 15 feet away, or 20 feet. And so an F48 didn't make sense to me. I do still have my F48, but I have managed to stick with just doing. I've managed to stick with just doing the K16s. Oh my goodness. Lost you again, didn't I? Lost you again, didn't I? Okay. We'll keep going real quick. So the most common cause is a bad network cable. Nobody likes to hear it. Every time I tell somebody, you gotta put another network cable out there, the last thing they want to hear. So in chat, or in the PPU Facebook group the other day, we had somebody who had asked to make your own network cable, or would you rather move off and buy the network cables already pre-done? I really don't know what's going on with the network and why Zoom keeps disconnecting me. Well, YouTube, I think we're going to end it here. I hate to keep going. This is literally, I think we're down to the last slide here, which is what are your experiences. So network and receiver boards, I'm just going to finish up here with you guys, and then we'll call it quits for the evening. Thank you for watching. Oh, there's YouTube or Facebook. It just came back. I guess Zoom came back. Is that me that just keeps popping out, or is that everybody? Number 6. Chat. Okay, so it's a Zoom thing. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap this up because the receiver board issues, the major issues with the receiver boards are generally network cables, and nobody likes to hear that. I highly recommend having extra network cables, more than you'll ever need, if you use F48s or receivers in general, because they're going to be the one thing. A network wire, literally the wires are hair thin, and yeah, you could twist pair those things together, and if you step on them, it could break them. So that's why stepping on a network cable, that's a bad idea. Don't step on network cables. But we highly recommend swapping out the network cables. That's the biggest repair. But more than that, with a receiver not working, so that you have a little bit of understanding, just go back to exactly what I said here. Check an output, a known working output with a non-working output. That's the fastest way to tell. If your receiver board has a test button on it, go ahead and push the test button and see if it's going to work with lighting up on test, or see if it works lighting up on test on a different port. Switch your Euro pins around, see if you can get through that. That's another suggestion. I'm going to ask real quick that everybody, if you have anything that you want to share, go ahead and throw it in chat. Unfortunately, YouTube or Zoom is not help being our friends tonight. So we're going to kind of call it quits here for the rest of the class. If you'd like to join us here in Zoom and you're on YouTube, there's a number of you here actually. And why don't you go ahead and jump on? I put in the video description down below is a link to the Zoom room, so you're welcome to join us. Huge thank you to everybody. Share your recommendations and your experiences in the video if you're watching on YouTube. And we're going to let you go right there. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, and we'll see you next week in the PPD Tuesday night Zoom. So again, thank you all. Have a wonderful evening and take care. Goodbye for now.